Let's now talk about debugging in VS Code, another key skill to have. So we'll go back over to our script. I'm going to make this a little bigger for you guys. So let's go to View here, Appearance. So let's zoom in, which is Control plus equals. Well, that's probably big enough, I hope. So we've got our script here, only 20 lines long. Again, just prints out a few things from our list. So what we can do to debug, and this is standard in most any IDE, we'll go to the left of our line numbers. We see this red dot appears, and we can select the line with code on it to debug that line. So we'll just select right here. So we've now got a breakpoint. That's what that's called. And then if we want to debug, there's a few ways we could do it. I believe over here we can start the Python debugger like that. So let's try that. So it's now stopped at our debugger. And over here on the left, we see our variables. So again, debugging is very useful for seeing values of things during the execution of our program. So we see numbers that has these values. We see current number is 10, well, which would be the second number. It looks like, yeah, because number mod 2, because that was an even number. That was the first even number. So it got caught here. That's the first thing that got caught in this if block was the 10, because it's an even number. Thresholds, the value of that is 20. So we see some differences again and similarities between PyCharm and VS Code. Over here, we have our values on the left. In PyCharm, by default, they were on the bottom. And a lot of times we can move these windows around as we like, as we determine preferences. If we want to continue moving on in the code, we see this little pop-up up here at the top. That popped up when this little movable navigator pane here, that popped up when I started the debugger. And we have our similar options as PyCharm. We have continue, step over, step into, if we want to step into a function, for example, step out, restart, or stop. So if I hit continue, we'll just continue on to the next line. So we just printed. There we go. We just ran that line. Actually, excuse me. We ran number 10 as an even number, skipping. And then it went to processing odd positive number for 15. So it went to the next part because that was not part of our mod 2. It was not an even number. Let's try that again. Let's continue. Now it's number 8. So essentially where we're going with continue is we're just continuing to iterate. Let's try this again. Debug Python file. We've arrived at our statement here. That's not exactly what I wanted to show you. Step over will continue line by line. That's what I intended to show you there. Whereas continue will kind of just keep executing different chunks of the program. So if we step over, we'll just go line by line. That's one of the most useful things with a debugger. So we see if number mod 2 equals 0, our number right now is 15, so it's not going to go into that. So it's printing processing odd positive number. You see it just printed that. We can keep stepping over, keep executing through our program line by line. As these conditions are met, it will enter into them and continue processing. So it looks like it just finished processing numbers. So let's see, number 12 is an even canceling program. That's right, canceling program due to a negative number, because that's what we input there. We see our number value is -6, the current number that it's on. We can see that this debugging is very useful for us to look at those values. So we could just step over and we're done. So again, that was one way to debug, is just open from this down arrow the Python debugger. We also can click on run and debug over here on the left. Oops, click on that again to expand it. And we can click run and debug. Python debugger. Debug the current active Python file. So you see it's just a kind of a few more steps. Whereas if we have over here the arrow Python debugger, that's a little bit easier to navigate to. And then these are the other standard things from that are similar with PyCharm. So it's probably worth revisiting those briefly. Let's create a method, and I can show you one of the other ones. So def print name. We won't enter any parameters there. Print my name is Joseph, and then we will we'll call print name right here. So let's click that breakpoint to delete it. We'll put a new breakpoint right here at print name, and then we'll enter our Python debugger. Okay, I'm going to scroll just a little, or minimize that a little bit. So if we want to enter in to this function, since we're calling a function, if we want to enter in it with the debugger, we need to click step into. Watch what happens if we just step over. See, it just went down to the next line. Remember, Python executes top down, and we'll execute what's at the top and then down at the bottom. It doesn't execute functions until they're called. It does compile them, but when they're called, it will execute. So we just executed my name is Joseph. We did not enter this function with the debugger, however. So let's stop that and run the debugger again. And now we are here. Let's enter into this function. We can hit step into. So we see now we can examine from within the function. And then we could continue to step over, which is just stepping through our program. That's the one I use most frequently, step over, sometimes step into. But as you build your Python familiarity, you'll get more used to those. So we've learned how to debug, how to enter the debugger a couple different ways, recommended over here. I recommend this, just it's easier with the Python debugger. We see our values of variables over on the left, and outputs again just down at the bottom in the terminal. So I hope that was a good overview and reminder for you of debugging. Very useful stuff to know and to be able to use.